Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to a very special edition of the show with a very special guest, none other than guitar virtuoso Ron Thal, otherwise known as Bumblefoot. What's going on, Ron? How are you?
Good, good. I'm all right. Nice to chat with you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thanks for coming. And before I forget, Ken Golden says hello.
I miss his brisket. I miss that brisket. You know the brisket, don't you? If you
I
know
don't eat
Ken, you
beef, but
know the
I know
brisket.
his ribs very well. So yes, yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I am decade overdue for one of his barbecues.
I was just talking to him a little while ago, and he was telling me a story about how you and the guys from Morgable were hanging out at his house and wonderful food because he is the grill master, so or the sword
Mm.
master, I should say. But
All right.
yeah, good guy.
Well,
I know
good.
Ken
Yeah.
like 30 plus years, so yeah.
Nice. He's such a wonderful guy.
Yeah, he is. He is. So Ron is joining us today because we've got some really important stuff to talk about. We've got a brand new album coming out from a brand new band that he and Derek Sherinian have put together called Whom Gods Destroy. Insanium is the new album, which is coming out March 15th on Inside Out Records. So pretty exciting stuff. So I want to kind of go back a little bit before we get started talking about the album. So you and Derek were part of Sons of Apollo, which was one of the really cool progressive metal, kind of like super groups, along with Mike Portnoy and Billy Sheehan and Jeff Scott Soto. A few years back,
Mhm.
you guys released two albums, and then you guys were on tour, and COVID kind of happened, and it kind of put the kibosh on that. I saw your last show before COVID hit. Literally, it was like 2 days before in New Jersey, and I mean, you guys,
Oh, that show.
the Loud show. That was a
Yeah.
loud show. My God. But it was a great show. And then you guys were set to head overseas. I guess you were going to South America, or was it going to Europe? I don't remember where you were going,
Oh,
but then COVID hit and that kind of put the kibosh on that. So
yeah.
between COVID and then Mike Portnoy announcing he was returning to Dream Theater, it seemed to kind of put an end to Sons of Apollo. So can you kind of talk a little bit about what all happened there and when you and Derek decided to say, hey, we're just going to kind of continue on, regroup with other people and keep doing this thing. When did that all kind of happen?
It was 2020. We put out our second album and we started touring. Uh, the loud show you saw. Yeah, it was a different front of house engineer that we had that night.
Yeah, I heard that story.
Our main guy had to split and someone else did it for us and they were very loud. Uh,
I will say, Ron, I've seen hundreds of concerts in my life. That's probably the loudest show I've ever seen.
wow.
Yeah.
So we beat out Manowar, we beat out uh, a lot of loud.
Symphony X on Gigantor, and
Beat out the
every other
Who.
loud show I've ever seen. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the one.
sorry.
But you guys were amazing, and you guys were having a blast up on stage. And I mean, the show was amazing for for what it was. And I remember after the show, I was like, "Wow, that was so good, but so loud. I would love to see them again, and maybe with obviously a better."
You less decibels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was
Yeah,
great. So
and you don't know, like
looking
from
forward to more, and
stage.
then the world changed, and now you guys, Sons of Apollo is no more. So
Yeah.
sorry, didn't mean to
Yeah,
talk.
and it's so funny because you can't tell from the stage. You have
Right.
no idea. Yeah, and then all you all that happens is after you get off stage and you start seeing all the messages and everything and yeah. So after that, we went to Europe. We had a 20 show tour. We got 4 shows in and then I had to pull the plug. So we came running back to the US and everything is all locked down and a bunch of us were like, hey, we got time. Let's make a third album. Let's start working on it, really nurture it, put a lot of time into it. And not everybody was on board to do that. So Derek and I just continued writing anyway. I always, during that time, I had the hopes that it would become, people would come around, or one person would come around, and it would become a third Sons of Apollo album. Eventually realized that that was not gonna happen. So the band split up into two bands, really. It became musically Whom Gods Destroy, the music that we started to write, it became a new band. Dino joined, and then Yaz and Bruno, and it became What You Heard. And on the other side of it, Jeff and I, Jeff offered himself to the band Art of Anarchy, this band I had in the past with some old friends of mine, and it became these two bands. And they're both putting out singles and videos and albums at the same time right now. And little juggling. So, yes. So, Whom Gods Destroy. That's it. I wanted to turn the intensity knobs up a bit. I always did. And I feel like we did with this new band. It has a lot more energy. I always think of it like a workout at the gym. There's a lot more sweating going on
Yeah.
with this one.
Well, I mean, you got the right front, and no disrespect to Jeff Scott Soto, who's a fine singer, but Dino is a different type of singer. And I think for this type of material, having heard the album now, it's pretty aggressive and chunky and ballsy. And I mean, Dino's a guy, he's a name who's been popping up a lot in recent years. You know, he's played with George Lynch, right? Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Mike Romeo had him on his last solo album and various other things. But, you know, now you got him fronting this band, which again, filled with notable names. And I think maybe finally his time has come, thanks to you guys. I mean, how cool is it to have this young buck fronting your band with all these formidable talents that really still is kind of an unknown other than to, you know, people who really are into this style of music. I mean, I think just wait till this new album comes out and all of a sudden the world, you know, Dino is unleashed to the masses. I mean, that's got to be a cool feeling for you guys.
Yeah. It's always good to be part of somebody's journey, and to contribute to where they're going. And we all expect them to go very far, just in life as a singer, as a person. He's a great guy. So I'm happy to be part of his story, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
However long I'll be in it, these days, I have this stoic philosophy of I could die tomorrow. So I'm glad we got to do this today.
Yeah.
That's all.
I hear it.
Yeah. And then Jeff, with Art of Anarchy, he is singer number 3, and the third time's a charm. I think it's the most band sounding together, great fit that band has. So, good. Yeah. It's all right.
Do you find that that's a better fit for Jeff's talents? I mean, I think that I thought he was great in Sons of Apollo, but
Oh, yeah.
I oftentimes wondered if maybe that stylistically wasn't the perfect fit for him, even though I think he did a fantastic job, and I wouldn't wish anybody else singing on those 2 albums. But you just have to wonder maybe long term if that really wasn't the best fit for him. I don't know.
I think when it comes to any musician or singer that has a strong personality in what they do, whatever they do, they contribute their spice to it, and it changes it into something different that would only be them. It's the kind of thing where when he's in Sons of Apollo, he's the right guy for Sons of Apollo. When he's in Art of Anarchy, he's the right guy for Art of Anarchy. He's one of those guys where when he puts his voice into it, that becomes a major part of the sound, and it becomes something new, and it becomes just what it is. So I don't hear him ever doing anything where he sounds like the wrong guy or not the fit. It's just it becomes that new thing that includes him.
Yeah, I mean, he is pretty adaptable. If you look at his career, I mean, he's done all sorts of different stuff and played with so many different people and bands. So I guess that's a good call. Yeah.
Yeah. You can pretty much sing anything and sound right with it. It won't sound the same as it did with someone else. It's going to sound very much like him being part of it.
Yeah. That's why I was always disappointed that his stint in Journey didn't last longer, because I thought because I know deep down inside that's something he really wanted to do. And I think he could have killed that, for a much longer period of time than that actually lasted. But I get, the guys in the band thinking he didn't sound enough like obviously the guy that came before. So
Mm,
understandable.
yeah.
So talk a little bit about this rhythm section, man. Yaz Namora and Bruno Valverde. I mean, Bruno really killed it on that recent Angra album. Both of these guys are pretty damn talented. How'd you come into contact with these two?
Ah, yeah. Bruno belongs on the cover of every drum magazine. That guy, and I expect that he will be in the future. He's just an incredible drummer, and he really needs to be more on people's radar. The guy is phenomenal. He can do anything. It's insane. It's pure insanium what he can do. So the music world, the rock world, is very one degree of separation between everybody. So let's even just look at the band and everybody, like Yaz and everyone. A year ago, Dino was doing stuff, making music with Yaz, doing a thing. And actually, I think it was even longer than that. It might have come out a year ago, but it was something that they were working on together before even both being part of Whom Gods Destroy. Now, Bruno being an Angra, so Felipe Andrioli, the bass player of Angra that plays with Bruno, we did stuff together with Dino that we did, and my own drummer, this amazing drummer named Kyle Hughes, British guy that lives in LA now. He's playing with Richie Kotzen now too. So again, you could trace the degrees of separation between everyone. And the guitarist in Angra, Marcelo Barbosa, he's an old friend of mine. And I've done things, he has schools out in Brazil that I've done clinics at. And yeah, great guy, great guitar player. And when we needed a fill-in bass player for the final run of Sons of Apollo in 2022, Felipe was the bassist. So there's the Angra connection. And then from that, there's also the Dino connection with my stuff. And then Dino and Yaz had that connection. And Yaz and Bruno and Derek live near each other. And yeah, everybody just, we're all,
We're
yeah.
connecting the
It's,
dots everywhere, right? Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. It's just a big game of connect the dots. So
Yeah.
yeah, and Yaz is this incredible guitar player. Like he could do the craziest shit, my God. Yeah, but he's also a phenomenal bass player. The same way Dino is also a phenomenal keyboard player.
Yeah.
And I am the world's worst drummer. But yeah, so that's it. And it's just most bands form where you just hit someone up and say, hey, want to play? Like, okay.
Very true.
So you just ask people, and if they can do it and if they want to do it, yeah, sure. And it's really that simple. Yeah.
So we got 9 tracks on the new album, Insanium. What's interesting is I was kind of looking through the track list and the sequencing. Not a lot of epic length stuff on this album. You guys went for more kind of like 4 to 6 minute length, more song-based type structures, which I think is interesting for this type of music. And I think maybe a nice change of pace from what you were doing with Sons of Apollo, where you had lots of longer pieces and some
The
shorter.
11-minute songs. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think our longest one is what, an 8-minute song? I should check.
Yeah, 8 minutes. 8 minutes.
Yeah,
I
the
believe that's
final,
the
the
last track, I
finale.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's cool about it is like the songs are like they allow for just the right amount of musical fireworks, especially from you and Derek, right? Because you expect that from you guys. But you have these really cool choruses and you have these great vocal melodies, and it's really like the kind of the perfect mix of the two, right? Because you got to satisfy both audiences. Because the more straightforward metal people and hard rock people, they just want those songs, and the prog metal fans, well, they want those amazing ripping solos, right? So you got a little bit of everything. I think there's a cool way to kind of put everything together. And how long did it take you guys to kind of write and arrange everything that we hear on the album?
It's even like that for ourselves. Like you start to feel like a song is off balance and it needs a slowdown here or there, just some breathing room or something. We started in 2020 just writing the stuff, and the way Derek and I always wrote was one of us would send a little 10-second MP3 to the other, hey, check out this idea. And then the other would send back with something added to it, playing with it or adding a new part to it. So I remember Derek wrote that intro, the piano piece to In the Name of War. So then I took it and I took that same rhythm and just, you know, just, dug down into hell and just bom, 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 bom. That was the next part. And it was also still in 5. And then he took it and said, you know what, let's straighten it out. Bom, 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 bom. Just made it more of a 4 feel. And then that turned into the verse. And then, yeah, you just build as you go and then live with it and say, oh, maybe this part should be here and that like that. And so War was the first one that we did. And then started writing over again. And at that point, Dino joined and started writing to the stuff, and just little by little, just slowly piecing it together, letting it marinate, and deciding, maybe this part's too long, maybe it needs something here, and just living with it as a listener and going back to it that way. Because there's the different ways you can listen. You listen as someone who's just listening, you listen as a player, which is a totally different thing. That's more, what's the word, self-indulgent type of listening. And, there's the producer hat you put on and listen from that point of view and be like, well, this part is good, but this part should really come forward and be the main focus of this song, and let's minimize what's happening here, like that thing. And so you just look at it from all the angles and listen to it and just see how it makes you feel, and in the end, it becomes what it is.
What it is, yeah, yeah. And you're working with a guy, Derek Sherinian, who's like a master of all sorts of different tones, and I was pleasantly surprised. I shouldn't be, because I've been listening to his music for so long and I've talked to Derek so many times in the past, but a lot of really cool like Hammond organ tones throughout the whole album. And it adds to the kind of the ballsiness of it. I mean, I get these kind of like vintage, like Deep Purple Uriah Heep elements throughout the whole album. And that of course totally does it for me. So I was like, yeah, this is right up my alley.
Yeah, it puts a nice icing on everything. It's like it would be so Meshuggah-ish, Pantera-ish, but then you have like this John Lord kind of thing going on, and it just gives it its own taste. It's bacon and ice cream.
Yeah.
It's like you don't think of them going together, but hey, this actually tastes okay.
It works. It's a marriage that works. Yeah, yeah, for sure. For me, some of the songs that really jump out at me, listening to it a couple times, I really like Crucifier a lot. I think the title track is great. You mentioned In the Name of War, and I really like Crawl a lot, but I like the whole album. So if you were to say to someone who hasn't heard this yet, but can obviously go out and check out a couple songs, because that's how people listen to things nowadays, are there like 2 or 3 songs that you would tell them right off the bat, here's what you need to listen to first to get like a great cross section of what to expect on this album?
I think War would be the good example of everything you would get out of the album. I think so.
Yeah, that's a good choice. That's one of the ones I would recommend. That's a good choice. The obvious question here, are you guys planning on playing this live at any point in time?
Eventually, I'm sure, yeah, we gotta carve out a time where we can just do a run of shows. Unless some festivals or one-offs come our way that we can do. This year is a tricky one because there's a lot of, I call them pre-existing obligations that people have to other bands and other things that were booked from a year ago. And yeah, so I am guessing that the soonest we could do an actual tour, show, would be end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, but you never know.
But you never know, right? Because it depends on how everything else goes. So speaking of all those other things, so what do you have on your plate for the majority of this year before something like that can even be considered?
Well, second half of March, Art of Anarchy, the band with Jeff, we are going to do 8 shows in the Midwest and Northeast. And what else do I have? I can't even remember what I'm doing. I have to check my phone now. Like that's the part of my brain that used to retain all of this stuff has just dried up and it's gone, and it's all on my phone. I have to check my schedule. What am I doing later? Oh, that's right. I have a solo album that has been done since June that I want to put out of all crazy instrumental stuff.
Nice.
So
Okay.
definitely that. Just some fun stuff like rock and roll fantasy camps and things like that. Those kind of things. I am touring less, producing more. I always loved the studio and producing. I was an adjunct professor at SUNY Purchase College teaching music production and all that stuff. From 22 years ago, I started that and always producing bands. And that is my biggest passion, is taking bands that are ready to get out on the field. Me, I'm all old and rickety and ready to be a coach, and just helping them launch their thing and get it going. There's a great band that I've done 3 albums with. Their 3rd album will come out this year. A band called the Dodies, Dodies. They're a duo, singing guitar player that is so oddly melodic in a way that like Radiohead was, things like that. Even Nirvana, as far as just the deep torture within. The drummer, great drummer that plays the whole drum set with just his right arm and plays bass on a synth with his left hand at the same time while singing backing vocals. And they're tight as fuck, and they groove, and they're phenomenal. And every once in a while, he'll grab the stick off of his synth and play, and then the guitar player kicks on his octave pedal running to a bass amp. So it's like they take turns being the bass, and they're one of my favorite bands. I love this band, love working with them. So album number 3, Dreamism, it's called, will be coming out this year as well.
I'll have to check that out. So you're real busy. I know Derek's busy. I mean, he's got Black Country Communion album coming out. I don't know if they're going to be playing any live dates, and I know he always has all sorts of things lined up out on the road as well. So I didn't know you were a SUNY Purchase guy. I'm a SUNY New Paltz guy. So
Oh, yeah, neighbors.
yeah,
Not far
pretty
at
much,
all.
pretty much, pretty much.
Very close.
So quickly, I wanted to touch on your time playing with Asia, which I thought was kind of fascinating. I got to catch one of the shows at Bethel Woods. I was at that show up
Oh,
at
yeah, I remember
Bethel
that show.
Woods.
Yeah.
I thought you were a really good fit there. I mean, it's like, it was like kind of cool to hear you singing those old classic songs and everybody hearing, wow, he's got a really nice voice, right? I mean, what was that like for you?
Yeah, that was it was wonderful. The band are such great guys, and just the songs are phenomenal, and you realize just how great the stuff was when you dissect it to play it all and sing it all. It's like, my God. So that one, yeah, that was an unexpected turn for sure. You don't expect the guitarist of GNR to be and other bands to become the lead singer fronting Asia.
Right.
Yeah. So with that one, because I've always had more of a kind of metal kind of singing voice, not raspy, I would say, but high range, big vibrato, more in the lines of old Rob Halford, Jeff Tate, even Michael Sweet, that kind of bright voice. And then you listen to John Wetton, who I've just loved since the UK days, and yeah, In the Dead of Night and Danger Money, and yeah, I just love that stuff. Totally different voice, rarely vibrato, just a breathier, more tucked into the chest kind of voice.
Yep.
And I spent about 2 months reteaching myself how to sing so that I would sound like him, so that when I go out there, when people are reminiscing those old songs, it's gotta sound. I realized when I started practicing the stuff just on my own that the wrong vocal tone is like singing the wrong words. It's that crucial to the sound.
Yep.
It would be like, you know, playing a heavy distorted sound on an acoustic song. It's not you have to have the right tone.
Yep.
So I spent 2 months coordinating and just really retraining my brain to just so that my default way of singing would be more like John Wetton and less like myself in the last decades. And it was just 8 hours a day for 2 months straight, every day, until it became my new way of sounding. So that when I'm staring at thousands of people and I'm freaking out internally, that I don't go back to my safety way of singing and that this is now it. So I would be changing vocal patches with my right foot and singing this new way of singing while changing guitar patches with my left foot and playing a different person's guitar parts, Steve Howe's guitar parts, that don't anchor down to the vocal parts the way the bass line did coming from the same human being. So two other people having to come together that I am neither of and be able to do it smooth and effortlessly. So it was just my full-time job for 2 months straight to get my shit together and make sure that I deliver it right as a tribute and honor to the fans, to Wetton's family, to the band, to everybody, to not fuck this up. This is not about me. This is, this is about Asia and making it sound like Asia and being Asia. So I did the best I could. I mean, my hands, I'm always going to sound, I couldn't sound like Steve Howe, no matter how much I wanted to. I researched what gear he used and cloned it in my Helix and tried to play it with the same feel and flow and everything, but no matter what, there's just one Steve Howe.
I was going to say, there's only one Steve Howe, and there's only one you, and you just do the best you can with what you got,
That's
right?
it.
I
It's
thought it
just
sounded
one
great.
person, one person paying tribute to the other. But what was great is how in the last half of the show, Steve Howe would come out and he'd be the guitar player. He asked me we only had 2 days of rehearsal, and he asked me, saying, would you mind not playing guitar for this stuff? Which was not expected. And kind of, the band didn't expect it either. It's like, this has always been a one guitarist band and I want to keep it that way. Of course, whatever he wants. This is his baby. This, he is the guitarist of Asia. So take off the guitar and just do, you're leaving now, and just do my best John Wetton.
That's it.
Yeah, without any security blanket, no guitar, no anything. And just tried to give the people the best I could of what Asia and they deserve. Yeah.
I remember sitting in the audience thinking, wow, why did he take his guitar off? Now it all makes sense. I'm sure Steve wanted to say the same thing to Trevor Rabin 25 years before that, right? In those union tours, right? So,
But the best, my favorite thing about that tour is I'm a huge Yes fan, and my favorite album is Going for the One. Usually not people's favorite album when they're choosing stuff.
Great. Well, maybe not the first choice, but it's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece, that thing. And they would open every show with the song Going for the One. And the first time I heard it, I was almost choked up with emotion just hearing it, because just the 7-year-old in me that first heard that album has been waiting 40 plus years for that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that tour, they also featured Gates of Delirium too on that tour, which I think was pretty cool. And that's not something you hear all the time from them either. So so that was cool.
Yeah, so that was a special one. Yeah.
So I know you probably got to go soon. So real quick, what kind of gear, or any new gear, guitars, amps, effects that you've been tinkering around with of late?
The latest piece of gear, like I pretty much stick to my thing. I got my this crazy thing, and now I'm just all Helix, everything, just this thing, and
there you go.
But one piece of gear that I did get is the Digitech Freakout pedal, which emulates when you hold your guitar up to a speaker cabinet and you're getting the feedback. It's a simulator, I guess, a feedback pedal. and you could control how quickly or not it fades in. And is it going to be the next harmonic? Is it going to be a fifth above that? Is it the second harmonic away and a third above that? Or is it random? There's a lot you can do with it. It could be a momentary pedal. You just put it on as you need it. So I started using it in I almost said Sons of Apollo, see? In Whom Gods Destroy, in the solos, you know, just holding a bent note and just kicking that on, and it's all over my solo album as well. That's my latest new toy that I love. Yeah.
That's something I never thought that we would ever see come out. I mean, you know, you had a guy like Jimi Hendrix all those years ago would basically be able to do that without pedals because he knew his amps so well and his guitars and the venue and everything like that. So it's kind of an interesting little toy, right? Yeah.
It is. It's a damn
Feedback on the
good,
fly, right?
it's a really good toy. Yeah.
So cool. So we got Insanium from Whom Gods Destroy coming out March 15th. One quick sentence to explain what the music on this album is all about to everybody watching. Go for it.
A pummeling of the senses.
Prog metal, hard rock, and everything in between, right?
It is the hard rock metal. I would say it's a prog metal, prog rock album with a lot of intensity and a lot of crazy ass playing.
Yep. And roaring vocals.
Roaring.
Yeah. Dino can roar for sure. So check out the album, everybody. March 15th. It's right around the corner. It'll be here before you know it. Whom Gods Destroy, Insanium on Inside Out Records. I want to thank Ron for joining us today, and best of luck to all the stuff you got going on this year, and hope we get to see some live shows from you later in the year. And take care, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. For Mr. Bumblefoot, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon here. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.